From the shores of Malibu where the waves are pumping, to the Great Wall of China and back to the streets of Las Vegas and Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where the UFC is coming. We are live. This is It's Time Radio, the show where we talk about what you think about but may be afraid to voice. Do not worry, we will voice it for you. We talk about everything on It's Time. Politics, TV, UFC, sex, drugs, rock and roll. We got it all. It's No Holds Barred Radio, folks. And I'm here with my co-host, producer, longtime friend, TJ DeSantis. TJ, you're looking kind of sharp, TJ, today. There's something different, and I can't quite figure it out.
I mean, I'm not in my studio.
Okay, that's
which
one.
I hate, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, you're looking good, my friend.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Good to have somebody better looking than me on the show. I like it. But speaking of somebody better looking than me, let's talk about our guest here. We have on the UFC warrior, the UFC the contender. Love to watch her fight. Great personality, great everything, brings it all into the octagon. Claudia Gadelha. Claudia, how are you? Are you good?
I'm doing amazing. Just got done with some jiu-jitsu, so feeling really good. I love working out, love being active, and I'm feeling great today. Excited for this interview.
Well, thank you. And that shows because one thing I'm a big proponent of, aside from personally trying to stay in shape 365 days a year, I think as a fighter, it's important to stay in shape so in case you get that call that they need you in the octagon in 2 weeks. And you talk about training and everything else, but you're one of those fighters that consistently stays in shape 365 days a year.
Yeah, for
and that's the way to be. That's the way to be, totally.
And it's a battle, right? It's a battle with your mind, with you habits to be able to get to that level, and I've been retired from fighting for 3 years now, and when you look at most retired fighters, they end up losing their mental health. They end up losing their physical health, right? Because they get fat and they don't know how to deal with their emotions and end up eating their emotions and stuff. So I managed to stay in shape even though I'm retired. I still train like an athlete. I still eat like an athlete. I still think like an athlete. And this is one of the things I always thought about when I was fighting. I was like, when I retired, I want to make sure I take the skills I learned in fighting to my life after fighting. I don't want to just forget about those skills. I want to use, because they're so valuable and they are high performing skills. So I want to use those skills to my life after fighting. And I retired pretty young, and I'm still very consistent in everything I do.
Well, it's very evident. Again, every time I see you, and you're a true example of once a fighter, always a fighter. But even though your career inside the UFC octagon, you put a halt to it 3 years ago, you're still fighting in essence because, you train every day, you have the fighter mentality, you're involved in the UFC Fight Pass invitational events, and you just mentioned like what your life has been like since leaving fighting, but one key question is, do you miss it? Do you want to get back in? Is there ever a chance that you could just say, hey, they offered me this, let me go for it again? Does that occur to you? Do you think it could ever happen? I won't hold you to it, but to me, it's obvious you have to have that roll through your mind from time to time.
Yeah, this is a really good question, and like the way you phrase it really like touched my emotions a little bit. But I have to be, I have to understand how my life is right now, right? Like I took a role in the UFC with a lot of responsibilities, and I started working for the UFC in the athlete development department, helping young athletes to take care of their finances, the training, recovery, all that stuff. But it was way too emotional for me because I was getting involved way too much. And then they brought me in to help with the jiu-jitsu strategy, which, it's what I really, really love. I started training jiu-jitsu as a kid, and I ended up fighting MMA because I wanted to make a career for myself and I wanted to make money and change my life. I came from very humble beginnings and I needed to do something to change my life. So moving from Brazil, first from the northeast of Brazil to Rio de Janeiro to train with guys like Jose Aldo, Renan Barral. Like I trained with killers for so long, and I built this strong mentality, and then I became a great fighter. But then moving forward, I knew that I had to get past the fighting phase, right? So I also went to law school as I was fighting in the highest level in the UFC because I
I'm sorry,
knew
you said
that.
you. I'm sorry, you said you went to law school.
Yeah, I went to law school. I
Oh,
have a
okay.
bachelor's degree in law, and the reason why I did that was because I was getting ready for that next phase in my life, right? So
Brazilian law school, Claudia. Brazilian law.
yes,
You know,
Brazilian.
Luciana Andrade is a attorney from Brazil too.
Yeah, I know
Bianca
that.
Andrade. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's so cool. And it's so hard. It's so hard to do. And I was doing that as I was competing in the highest level in the UFC.
Kudos
I
to you.
was, I was going to law school because I was getting ready for that next thing, right? Because I knew, it's a matter of when, not if, right? It's when I'm gonna retire, right? And I feel like every coach and every athlete should be very aware of that. Even though you have to be 100% in the game, your identity is not in it. Like your identity is not the fighter. The fighter is just a little bit of what you're doing, or when you're competing in the highest level, it's a lot of what you're doing, but it's not who you are, right? And I understood that in a very young age. I was able to detach my identity from the fighter, and I was able to get ready for the next thing in a very young age, which is not always the case to most athletes. So if I think about, like, if I get emotional and think about my moments, my victories in the octagon, and the training sessions where I challenged myself to be the best in fighting, to become the best in everything I was doing, to be able to challenge myself to the point where just fighting can take you to those places. If I think about that, yeah, of course I miss it, right? But then going back to my role in the UFC, to my identity, that it's not attached to the fighter, that my identity is attached to the person I became training to be the fighter, right? Like when I understand that, it's very easy to, you know, understand why I miss it, but also why I should be moving forward, and not to get depressed about that fighter that doesn't live here anymore.
You know, Claudia, this really brightens my heart to hear you say this, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm very devoted and very caring towards all the fighters and their career. And it shows, I think I show it in my announcing and everything I give you. But what I mean beyond that is you are a perfect example with what you just said of what I try to preach to the fighters who are my friends and fighters that come on the show. You have to think beyond your guns because you're going to put your guns away at a certain point, and you have to have something to do afterwards. And you being a role model, just in what you just said to other fighters that you talk to, that you coach, that you do, you bring your knowledge and your experience to, it's very important that they receive guidance like this from their managers and from their handlers. And I see so many fighters mishandled in that way that what happens is, as many athletes, or as Charles Barkley once said on the show, that over 90% of NBA athletes are basically broke 3 years later because they didn't prepare for what's happening after their careers. So that in itself, with your work, as I understand, we're going to talk about it as a life coach, is very, very importante, very important to relay that, and
Well,
especially coming
one
from
thing I'd like to just
yeah.
jump in quick too is Claudia, kind of what you're saying, like working with other athletes. Like, I feel a lot of times because fighting is such an individual sport. Yes, you have your team, but fighting is such an individual sport that you're fighting for, everything that you want to gain. That not a lot of times do athletes in mixed martial arts kind of help their teammates in areas outside of the fighting
Right.
life. Like they don't think about the actual approach to what life is going to be like when your career is over. And I want to echo Bruce's sentiments that you have a lot to give, not only just on the jiu-jitsu mats when you're teaching people, but just the approach to life, during and after fighting that can go a long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Even to the point of just teaching people how to you get that check, no matter how little or how much, and putting away a little bit each time
Oh,
for your future. It's so important. I mean, what did I read one time? If you just put away $32 a day or something like 27.20 a day or something like that. I think we talked about this on the show. You've got $10,000 at the end of the year. If you
Yeah.
put away a couple $100, a month, $500 a month, if you can, into a bank account, the amount of money you'll have 10 years later. I mean, this is called retirement, you know?
And for
For
a lot
sure.
of people, guys, that $25 to $30 a day, that's just lunch. People eat out so often that they don't realize that if you just skip one meal eating out a day, like you said, Bruce, you can have a vacation at the end of the year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything adds up. But is this now? Now that you mention this, Claudia, do you relay this knowledge to your people?
For sure, for sure.
Okay.
This is one of like I think there are like a group of things that are very important to have very organized in your life in order to succeed and sustain that level of success. Because right, it's like winning the UFC belt. Like winning the belt is hard, but maintaining the belt is harder. Like success is very hard, and sustaining success it's so hard. Losing weight is hard, but sustaining being lean and in good shape is so damn hard, and I talk about different things because sometimes it's not even the diet itself, or it's not even the finances itself. It's the relationships, it's the mental health. It's the other things that we're supposed to be organized in your life that it's not, and a lot of fighters, I think you have a lot of fighters listening to you here, but the thing is that a lot of fighters think that they don't have enough time to do those things. And I'll tell you what, like as a fighter, like you have a lot of like training sessions during the day and you're pretty busy, but you also got a lot of time to kill, a lot of time to kill. And instead of like being bad, doing nothing or scrolling through Instagram, you can go take a course and learn about finances and what you can do with your money. Or, do what I did, which was crazy. I went to law school as I was fighting Joanna, Carla Esparza, all these girls. But anyways, I think, you know, as a fighter, as an athlete, you are very busy, but you also have a lot of extra time to use to learn different skills. It's a
Well,
matter of understanding what's next and getting ready for it.
absolutely. And you brought up a very key point, and this is something that's true of every area, including business, personal achievement, fighting, the whole bit. The hardest part is not getting there. That is hard in itself. The hardest part is maintaining it when you
Yeah.
get there and maintaining that success and holding that championship belt and holding that attitude. That is, and you might, I don't know if hardest part is really the proper term, as much as that's where the work and the consistency to
Yeah.
stay that way. Consistency is key. Mental attitude is key. And these are the key points that you're talking about right now.
Honestly, guys, I think about this when I look at what the toughest thing to do in mixed martial arts would be today. I don't think getting to the UFC is that hard. I don't think even staying in the UFC is the hardest part. The hardest part about an active mixed martial artist today would be getting to the UFC, falling short, getting cut, and then trying to get back. I think that would be the most difficult thing today because, man, there are so many people that want to fight, and your competition. Claudia, you can speak to this. Your competition is obviously the opponent that's standing in front of you, but it's also the other people that you don't even fight that are fighting for those spots and those positions. How difficult is it to sort of you know isolate the noise and the pressure, fighting at that high level? And you were going to law school at the same time. Like, how were you able to keep your eyes on the prize of both of those things and maintain the level of dedication to do both?
I think, like coming from nothing, absolutely nothing. Like I'm from one of the most challenging parts of Brazil, and seeing my mother raising five kids and not having money for like not even to feed us, and seeing my parents struggling with the most simple things in life gave me that warrior spirit and made me understand very early that I had to go do something to change that. And my goal in life was not only to change my life, I wanted to change my parents' pattern of life because it was so sad to see my mom wanting to eat something and not being able to, like that was one of the things that hurt me so much a kid, and I grew up with that mentality. Like, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna do something extreme that it has to be extreme to take me out of where I am right now. And I go back there now and I go like, oh my God, look where I'm from. I outgrew this place and like everything that I lived as a kid, but it's so rewarding to see like how I where I came from and what I was able to create through a lot of consistency, like Bruce said, consistency, a lot of discipline, a lot of faith, you know, and I think those are like the three main pillars of life. If you have that consistency, discipline, and faith in whatever you believe in, you're gonna make it in life, you know, and that was my belief. And, you know, at 18 years old, I looked around and I was living in the gym for 3 years already, cleaning the gym and living in the gym. And I looked around, I was like, where are the best fighters in Brazil? And they were in Rio de Janeiro. So I got my backpack with a gi. I had $20 and I got a plane ticket. Somebody bought me a plane ticket and I flew to Rio de Janeiro by myself and sat in André Pederneiras in front of his gym and waited for him to walk by so I could ask him to train in his gym. And when I looked at him, I was 18, right? And I was like, "Hey, I'm from Mosoro. I'm here because I want to become an MMA fighter. I want to be an MMA fighter." And he looked at me and he tells this story, you know. I go like, "Are you crazy? Like, there's no women in this sport." We're talking about a time where women were not even in the UFC, not even in Invicta yet. But I knew what I wanted, and I knew that if I worked just as hard as the guys, if they were making it, like if Renan Barão was able to make it all the way to Rio, all the way to the US and fight for the UFC, I knew I was going to as well. So I was like copying the guys and looking at what they were doing and training just as hard, if not harder than them, because I knew I was gonna make it. So like the belief, the consistency, the discipline brought me here.
It did, but also one other thing that brought you there is a word that neither one of us has said, and I think both of us feel very strongly, including TJ: passion. Passion for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because if you have passion for what you do, when you get knocked down on the canvas, as Rocky said, you got to get up, move forward, and punch harder than ever, right? And it's very, very, very key, very key. I'm very impressed by the role model status, but tell me more about the life coach work. Now, are you actively life coaching fighters that we know in the UFC? You don't have to mention your clients; it's private privilege. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, I am. I think just talking about the things I talk about, I kind of like draw in people to ask me for help, like people that are thinking about retirement, you know, or people that had a little bit of experience with me working in the athlete development department, you know, and just like the way I live my life, I kind of attract people that are struggling with the things I was able to solve, the problems I was able to solve for myself, you know. So I'm helping fighters, I'm helping jiu-jitsu competitors like to the highest levels. And you know, like when I started thinking about retirement, it's funny because I thought about this so many times. I was like, I don't think nothing can give me the amount of joy and can challenge me to the point that fighting does. So what am I gonna do? You know, and when Dana said, "Oh, come work for us," you figure out because you're a smart woman, you know what you like when you hear. I was really like doubting that ability, you know, but because for me, winning was getting my arm raised in the octagon, you know, that was winning for me. But when I started helping people and seeing them overcome their fears and really like getting to that next level when it comes to mindset, mentality, and state of mind, I was like, oh wow, like this is the kind of joy I fucking love it. Like this is better than fighting because I'm helping other human beings to solve problems for themselves and it's so rewarding to like life in general, not just sports, you know? So then I found my passion and I started studying more about coaching. I got the best certifications in the game. I'm a high achiever. I want to do great things in life. So I went and got the best coaching certifications in the game. And I'm helping people to lose weight, to overcome their fears, to change their mindset. And other than the work I do for the UFC, that it's very rewarding as well because I'm helping the jiu-jitsu community, and that's where I started. This is like that my two passions combined, and I really found what's next for me.
Hey,
I, th-
I want to jump in real quick and talk about something that is pretty unique. Claudia, you say you went to the gym in Rio and had your eyes on becoming a UFC fighter before women were even doing it. There's a lot being talked about women's sports and equality compared to their male counterparts, mainly because of the basketball player Caitlin Clark. But I want to say like MMA has been a leader in equality when it comes to sports for men and women. Because if you get to the UFC, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. That first contract, it's the same base starting rate. The opportunities are equal. I think if anybody wants to like look at the UFC as a leader in anything, it's the opportunities that they afford their athletes being 1-to-1 for both genders, and that's something that's special. And I think we have a lot to thank Claudia for that because you were the one that was trying to blaze that trail long before anybody was showing up. And obviously, it goes without saying, Ronda broke down a lot of those doors. But yeah, I mean, 115 was a weight division that I never even thought we would see in the UFC. I didn't even know 115-pound women existed in mixed martial arts for the longest time, and I covered this sport for a very long time. It's one thing that I think you got to probably be proud of, Claudia, looking at the UFC and the female side of things, being a leader in mainstream sports.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For sure, man. Like it's so rewarding to see like how far we came, because like you said, like when I started, women was not even in the UFC. Women was not even in Invicta, and I remember when I got to Invicta, I made like really good money right away. To me was like a lot of money. I was broke living in the favelas in Brazil, trying to, walk to the gym and to college every day. And then I made the Invicta money. I was very happy. But then when the UFC hired 11 fighters from Invicta to launch the strawweight division in the UFC, and I was ranked number one in there, and it was me and Carlos Parza like going to head, and I was like, because I opt to stay out of the Ultimate Fighter, they gave me money for 6 months to wait for them to film the show and to go get ready for my first fight in the UFC. And actually, I was in the first ever strawweight fight in the UFC history, which is good for my resume, and it was pretty fun to do that too. And I think I deserved it because I was doing that for so long before women was in the UFC. But I made that money right away, and I was like, oh my God, now I can breathe, now I can eat, now I can pay for better coaching. Now, my life is about to change, and I was very smart with my money, like right there. I was like, okay, I can use my money to invest in myself, but I cannot waste my money. I started like when I started making money in the UFC, I bought my parents a house. It's the first thing I did with money. It was like my biggest victory in life. Then I bought myself a house and I started buying assets to pay for my lifestyle later, So like today I can live a good life because I was able to do that during my career. But like that's one of the things I'm very thankful for, and I respect the UFC a lot for that because it's maybe the only sport that pay men and women equal. And man, it's so extreme. This sport is so extreme, and like men and women trains the same, and we maybe perform better sometimes, maybe most times. That we deserve it. We totally deserve it.
Absolutely. And it makes me happy to hear you say this because obviously we hear different things. Well, the UFC doesn't pay this, the UFC doesn't pay that. What people don't understand in the sport of mixed martial arts, the UFC, with the exception of a few fights that we hear about in other organizations, pays more than anybody and takes care of their
Oh
fighters.
yeah.
I mean, do you have any complaints whatsoever about the money you were paid in the UFC?
Not at all. I
Not at
actually
all,
like
right?
I understand business. The UFC is a business that has to operate with like hundreds of employees, and there's a whole business structure that needs money. And if you look at these other organizations that they say it pays more here and there, they're not sustainable. The UFC is sustainable. You're gonna build a career, you're gonna build a personal brand, you're gonna make money. If you do everything right, you're not gonna complain about money later. But if you start, making mistakes on the way, climbing the ladder, then you're gonna start complaining about the UFC pay. I actually I'm very happy. I know that girls get paid more now than when I was fighting, but I'm very happy with what I was paid. I was very taken care of, and I was able to invest my money, and I probably now I'm 35. I 5x my money, the money that I made in the UFC, in the last 4 years. So
Curio,
nothing to complain.
I love that. Curiosity is killing me. What was your key investment? What was the best? What did you invest in?
Real estate. I started buying properties and investing in Airbnb, VRBO. So I I had in the end of 2023, I had 9 properties. Just sold two because I started learning more about the stock market. So I started investing in the stock market. I sold 2 properties to put more money in the stock market. So I have 7 properties now between Las Vegas, Brazil, and Orlando in Florida. And I just love real estate. Like, you put your money there, then you cash flow the money, and then a couple of years later, if you want to sell, you get your money back plus more. You make money with that. I flipped a couple houses as well. So real estate was like the way I was the my mainstream of multiplying my money. And now I like the stock market more because I don't have to deal with people or tenants and all that stuff, but I still love real estate.
Good for you, Claudia. That's very, very smart move on your part. I'm very impressed. Very impressed. And
Thank
the
you.
old story about real estate, if you buy correctly, you hold on to it for 5 years, aside from the tax benefits and everything else, you're always going to make money. You know?
Always.
Always.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always.
Gotta play it smart. Very impressed with
Hmm.
all that. So now, where you're at right now, the coaching, your financial thing, whether you call it being set or preparing even more so for the future, because you're still very young. You have a very bright future ahead of you. What other goals, if any, do you have? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So now I'm really also focused in the UFC Fight Pass Invitational. We are building this whole jiu-jitsu org in the UFC where we want to do to jiu-jitsu what Dana did to MMA, what you guys did to MMA. Like, how do we do that? How we bridge the gap between what jiu-jitsu is for the last 100 years to like what jiu-jitsu has the potential to be. Like, that's my goal now. And like I said, it's a passion of mine. I started in this sport, and I'm very focused in really changing this sport and transforming the sport instead of being a competitor sport to be an spectator sport. So like people that are watching at home, like my mom or my dad, or like the parents of the kids that are competing, so they can understand jiu-jitsu in a very easy way. That's what we're doing now in the UFC. So we are building a whole organization now where we will have UFC Jiu-Jitsu Opens, and then we're gonna have UFC Jiu-Jitsu Futures, which is that would be kind of like the Dana White Contender Series for Jiu-Jitsu, and then we have the FPI, which is the big UFC. And
Right.
Dana is fully invested. He loves the idea. He wants to take over the whole jiu-jitsu business, and I think that's the great way to do it. I have a great business partner that is a very smart guy that works for the UFC for 11 years, and he comes with the business operations and the brain, and I come with the relationships, the jiu-jitsu knowledge, and the rule set, and we get together and we just transforming the UFC Fight Pass Invitational into this like remarkable jiu-jitsu event that can be the next UFC big product.
Well, think about it, Claudia. I mean, what better thing to be involved with Dana White? He's got the Midas touch. He's and it's amazing. A man that's close to being a billionaire, if not already, whatever the case might be, still has the passion to work with fine people like you and to help the fighters and to go into these other ventures along with all the other ventures from Power Slap to UFC to Contenders, on and on to production, film, TV, everything he's doing. I mean, he's a maverick in business. You couldn't ask for a better partner, unless you had me as a partner, and we can talk about that in the future.
No, yeah, for sure.
But
On the jiu-jitsu tip,
with that
guys,
being said,
I
I
just
have one
want to say
question.
that
Oh, TJ, I'm sorry.
I just want to say on the jiu-jitsu tip, I think Claudia can get behind this as well. It's great what the UFC has done for mixed martial arts, but if you remember back to UFC 1, the whole point of the show was to put over Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Rorion Gracie wanted to prove that his family's martial art was the only one that you needed in street conflict. And obviously, the sport of MMA blossomed and grew and became this in my opinion, the greatest combat sport all to its own. But it's fitting that we come full circle now, Claudia, and start to put that spotlight back on the sport that started it all, which is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
And this sport and this deserves more attention, because I don't want to speak bad, not anything bad about any other organizations, but if we look at what people are doing with jiu-jitsu now, like most organizations are like money grabs. Like you pay to compete, you get a medal, you win the hardest jiu-jitsu tournament in the world, and you make $10,000 every 2 years. Like the sport and the organizations require you to behave, train, eat, and sleep like a professional, high-level athlete, but they don't treat you that way. So we're here to change that, like in like the UFC does with MMA, in a sustainable way. We're not gonna be here giving people millions of dollars one time. This is going to be sustainable, life-changing like it was for me. That's the goal.
And it's
And
prize
also,
fighting, right? There needs to be good prizes to fight for.
There has to be good prizes
Exactly.
to fight for. But let me take it another step too. One of the big things happening in the submission grappling jiu-jitsu world is combat grappling, right? Is there ever going to be an open hand slap addition to the jiu-jitsu world you're working in to take it to the not the next level, but that other level of combat competition in grappling and jiu-jitsu?
I think that kind of like takes away from the art, because the art really changes, like the positions, the leverage, like the way you practice and do jiu-jitsu really changes when you're getting smacked in the head. So
Yeah, of course.
I would say like what we're doing now, it's taking that art that it's been around for so long, and nobody yet had transformed this into the monster that has the potential to be into, what it can be. That's what we're gonna do now. But then later, like Dana, fell in love with MMA and turned MMA into this monster. Now it's jiu-jitsu, and then he has this boxing passion that he also wants to do. Like, who knows if we're gonna take the combat jiu-jitsu under our arms and help that this sport also to grow, because I think it's fun, it's interesting, it helps athletes that are retiring from fighting to get in there and make some money. It's entertaining. It mixes up with what Dana is doing with this lap fighting, so I think we can probably get behind that in the future, but now the focus is to turn the pure gentle art jiu-jitsu into the thing that has the potential to be.
Got you. And you mentioned slap fighting. I have to ask you, as a fighter, right? How do you feel about slap fighting? Would you ever stand there and let somebody hit you without protecting yourself?
Hell no. I love my brain way too much, and I had concussions in my career, so like every time I see this Mac, it gives me a concussion from watching it. They're like, oh my God, I would never let someone do that to me. But I went to one of the shows and it's very entertaining. It's so fun. I like the environment, like the people in there, this labs itself. It's fun. It's super fun. So like for entertainment, I understand why they do it, but like when it comes to health and well-being, I'm out.
Hey, did you see that video Dana posted on Instagram the other day? This Russian dude slapping a watermelon. The watermelon just like explodes. Oh, it's crazy.
You know, there's
Imagine
so
what
many
that's
videos.
doing.
It's so crazy. There's so many videos coming out of Russia. What did I see last week? Is a big, huge man fighting two women, one with headgear, one with not, knocking them both out. You know, one on two,
Yeah,
two
I
on
mean,
one.
that's the thing. That's something different altogether, guys. Like for whatever reason, mixed martial arts has always had this sort of niche genre to it. Because I don't even want to call that MMA. That's not MMA. That's like a
No,
freak show,
it,
and
it it's a
I
freak
get
show.
really uncomfortable when I see that stuff.
Absolutely, without question, without question.
Because that's not
Claudia,
the
we're
same thing. Like we're talking to Claudia, who's one of the greatest women to ever step in the octagon. I don't want anyone to get confused on what Claudia did being in line with the same thing that that guy did against two women. Like that's
no,
not.
Yeah.
you put it correctly, TJ. It's a freak show. So
Yeah.
Claudia, you're living in Las Vegas, right?
Hmm.
How often do you go back to Brazil?
Oh, it's tough. It's very tough because I'm so busy here. So I would say like 5 times a year. Then I fly my parents here twice a year. Um, I love Brazil, but America has done great things for me. So I want to be here.
Lovely to hear. Wonderful to hear.
Thank
Definitely.
you.
And you're going to be at the expo, so people can see you at the expo. You got anything going on at the UFC expo at the end of June?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there. I'm gonna be doing podcasts. I'm gonna be doing signings, and it'll be fun. I'm excited to, see the fans again and see everybody again.
Awesome. And how about you? Do you have merchandise that you sell? T-shirts, hats, anything like that?
I don't. I don't. It's
Would you
too
like
much
to?
work.
Would you like? No, it's not tough work the way I'll do it for you.
Oh, really? That'll
Yeah.
be fun.
Um,
Yes.
when you get a chance, so we talk about it all the time with fighters, look up millions dot
Okay.
co. That's my company. The Shevchenko sisters are on it. Many, many UFC fighters. We make all your merch. You get the lion's share of the profits, not a 10% cut as happens in most deals. You work with the designs. You don't ship it. You don't do anything. You just promote it to your people. We'll ship it all over the world for you. And you can have watch parties on millions.co. It's not com, millions.co. The Shevchenko sisters, for instance, will get together and have a watch party like Joe Rogan has his watch parties. And you can get sponsors and people, your followers will, pay a little bit of money to spend that 2 hours with you, as you talk about the show and everything. It's a way to give back to your following so they can be with you during a UFC, along with getting really fine merchandise that you can put together. TJ, when you get a chance, if you want to send her the link or if you want
Sure.
to let me know, but
Cool.
they would love to have you on because I mean you're still so popular and you got so much going on. I'm sure you've got a phrase or an image that you would like to put on some merchandise for yourself or merchandise that you're making for what you're doing, and it won't cost you a dime. All you do is reap the rewards. Won't
That's
cost you a single
amazing.
penny. Not a penny.
That's cool.
Now,
Yeah, yeah, I'm interested.
like you try to give back to the fighters, I've developed this with my associates from Canada who came to me with the concept because I wanted to teach fighters how to brand themselves, to start
Hmm.
branding themselves, to think beyond, again, their guns, and to have a way to make money along with the fight night checks that they receive. So
That's great.
check it out. If it's
Very
good for you,
great.
then I'll set you up. Or TJ, if you can send her the link for me, I'd appreciate it very much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. With that
Cool.
being said, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I've always been so impressed with you, Claudia, but now I'm actually more impressed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was an honor to be here. I love you. I loved you calling my fights.
Thank you.
It
Thank
was very fun, good memories. I was actually watching me versus Karolina Kovacevic yesterday in Rio, and it was one of my best performances in the
you.
UFC.
Yes.
So good memories, very good memories, and thank you for everything you do, not only inside the octagon, but outside of it. I think this is actually the most important thing for you because I can see that you also love helping and helping athletes to understand, what's the next thing. It's very, very important. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much. I live for that. It's not just announcing in the octagon. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of life. And I
I can
love to give
tell.
back. You guys, you men and women who have put your blood, sweat, and tears on the line on that octagon floor, along with every other fighter out there, deserve everything. And I'm always in your corner, Claudia. You ever need anything from me, I'm always there for you. I promise.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You got it. Cheers.
Hi, everybody. I've had an absolute blast
recording your championship intros on audio and also on video. And for those of you that didn't know, the videos can be done special exactly the way you like them, because these are green screens and we can do them with a scene behind me. Do you want a fighting scene? Do you want a beach scene? Do you want a race car scene? Any scene you want, we can give it to you. It's your theme and my pleasure. Just write our offices and we will answer you with the exact fee involved and how it'll get done. So here we are, and now it's time, and it's your choice. Cheers! That was very enjoyable. Very impressed, like I said on the show.
Bruce, I think Claudia has, a great career in her past, but what she's focusing on, I mean, she has the opportunity to potentially be more impactful post-fighting for the sport when it comes to the athletes and helping them find their path, while actively fighting or post-fighting. That in a lot of ways, you might find people celebrating her post-fighting accomplishments more than her active competition accomplishments.
Well, when you consider all the entertainment and all that she put on the floor for our entertainment during her career, and you realize what she's doing now, aside from all the glory she received in her career, but she's on a glory path now, because she has a chance to create a future, as she explained, jiu-jitsu, working with Dana White, all that. It's she's got a fun path. She has a passionate path ahead of her. She's going to have no problem not fighting anymore because she's still involved.
Yeah, and you brought it up, that word passion. I think 99% of the people that get involved in combat sports do so because they're passionate about it. You know what I mean? There's not a guarantee of fame and money when you go out there and, potentially put yourself in harm's way. So you got to go out there and do it because you love the art, you love testing yourself. And then the rest of it that comes, with it is great. But for what Claudia is doing, you can tell she still very much cares about helping the sport grow. And, we live in a time, Bruce, where I think, another, part of the word is passion. We don't have enough compassion in this world. And it's nice to see veteran athletes sort of look at the next generation and be like, guys, like, this is a hard world to navigate. I've done it. Let me help you.
Exactly. As a parable, when you think about it, and here's another example, we see athletes go wrong, right? Make mistakes in their career, whether it's lawful, unlawful, or just plain mentally stupid. So I want to bring up a situation that happened this week. We have a boxer named Ryan Garcia, who's 25 years old. He has made reportedly $50 million in the boxing ring. And now he gets arrested this week for felony vandalism, getting arrested and led away in cuffs because at the Waldorf Astoria, he reportedly did $18,000 worth of damage and vandalism to a hotel room. WTF? What? There's no excuse. Now, I know they've said he might be a little off, whatever. I do not want to make that kind of an accusation. It's just what's been said. But any damage over $400 is considered a felony, and he got arrested in Beverly Hills, the Waldorf Astoria.
With great exposure and prominence comes great responsibility.
No question.
I don't think that Ryan Garcia has proven that he is responsible enough to be as big of a deal as he is, and that's just the bottom line. Like, he acts in ways where he seems to feel like there are no consequences for his actions, and that is extremely disheartening because, Bruce, the kid is extremely talented. It's very clear to see.
And good looking and has all the side things you need along with looks and a flamboyant personality, which needs to be controlled, needs to be toned down.
Yeah.
To be sponsored and make so much money, as a rep and his role model status to me is basically shot.
100%. But here's the thing: we are a country of second chances. So
yes, I was just about to
maybe he
say
can
that.
turn it around. But here's the thing: we've talked about this with a lot of athletes, and I think, I hope he's not offended by saying this, but I think John Jones would agree. With fame and notoriety comes a ton of pressure, and sometimes you let that fame and notoriety get to you, and it ends up biting you in the ass. I mean, how much money has John left on the table due to his actions? I hope that
$30 to $50 million, and I think I'm being conservative.
Right. I hope Ryan Garcia, pardon my French, gets his shit together because he has a very bright future ahead of him, but it's only as bright as he allows it to be.
Exactly. And getting back to John, John's on the path. I mean, he was interrupted by this pectoral injury, but holding his head together, he's still at the age where he can make all that money and more, right? Considering at this time of his career, the money is much higher and the potential is much higher. And I do wish and send positive energy to Ryan Garcia that he overcomes all this and hopefully tries to attain or be. And again, you can get on my case for saying this, whatever you want, anybody listening. But like you said, with greatness becomes great responsibility.
Yep.
And that involves being a role model because we live in it. I've said it a million times on the show. We live in a decaying society and morality. And if anything can help hold that together for the benefit of the young people growing up to envision what they can be in life, role models are very important in this life. You can disagree with me all you want. You will not change my mind on that.
I agree.
There you go. Speaking of role model who went to a rough go here, Usain Bolt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it Usain or Usain?
Usain, yep.
Usain. Here's one of the greatest runners in the history of the Olympics and everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He's playing a soccer game, a charity soccer game. He ruptured his Achilles. Now, the horrible thing about that is it's a horrible injury, number one, right? He was in the 2020 horrible injury. I want to knock on wood because if I think of injuries, I wouldn't even want to contemplate going through that, like Aaron Rodgers, like he did. He's playing in the 2024 Soccer Aid for UNICEF match, which is a great charity. Mm-hmm. And now here he ruptured it. Now think about what he makes his money at now. Aside from speaking, he probably does guest events where he runs, makes huge paydays, whatever. What's the worst injury that can happen to a runner, right?
Yeah, I mean, any sort of injury like that. And I assume the Achilles would be
career-ending.
But next to the knee, next to the ACL, MCL, PCL, I would assume the Achilles is probably the most important tendons, for a runner.
Yeah, absolutely, without question. So I wish the best for him.
Isn't he past his prime? Like he's not talking about doing the Olympics again or anything, right?
I have no idea about that, but I mean, when you consider the fact that again, he can be a guest runner or put on exhibitions, and that's how a lot of people do make money. He might not be able to do that. It's going to take a year to overcome this injury, much less the effect it's going to have on his ability to be the fastest, as fast as he was. I wish him all the best. I really do. Hey, TJ, you want to hear something really interesting here? Is a dad, two sons, and their cousin were on a hike in the Badlands of North Dakota, right? Mm-hmm. I think every hiker might be dreams about this. They found what looked like a dinosaur leg sticking out of a rock.
Okay.
Right? It turned out to be a T-Rex fossil.
Oh, my God.
How's that? I mean, that would just be so exciting. I mean, forget whatever money it's worth or whatever. That's aside for the point. But it's been clarified. It's a T-Rex sock. Excuse me. It's a 9-foot long, 5-foot wide plastered jacket. They proceeded to remove the rock, and over the course of 11 days, they unearthed a 66 million year old fossil, right?
Oh my God.
And they had to wrap it in plaster and everything and then to get it out. And it was even too heavy to lift by a regular helicopter. They had to call in a Black Hawk to lift it.
Just out for a hike.
Just out for a hike. That's exciting. Just goes to show you how big those suckers were.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Hey, my condolences and best wishes go out to the family of Jerry West. He passed away, 86 years old.
Yeah, I saw that.
The famed NBA legend.
Yeah, no, 100%. Definitely sad. I got into a bunch of those documentaries about him and his accomplishments in the NBA. It was pretty cool.
Very cool. Very cool.
Hey, don't you have a poker tournament coming up?
Oh yeah, I guess the word travels. The World Series of Poker, which is the ultimate tournament to play for any tournament player poker or poker player to be at. We all know about the main event where people win, $8-12 million. I played in it. I've made money in it. I've done well in it. I have not been able to play the World Series of Poker for 7 years, or actually longer. I think since 2015. It's been almost like 9 years.
Yeah.
Or less than I've been able to go because I've been so busy with UFCs.
Right.
And I've done very well at the World Series of Poker. Last time I was there, I had made day 5 on the main event where you paid $10,000 to enter, and first prize at that point was $8.5 million, give or take, against 8,500 players.
What was your payday on that one?
I won about I won 27,000 and change.
Uh-huh.
I made day 5 and went out at 500 and I think 56th place or 68th place if I'm not mistaken.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was huge. It was, it's 10 hours a day play.
How grueling is that though, Buff? Like, especially day after day. I would assume after day one you feel maybe like your juices are flowing, but after day two, I would assume it just becomes just a pretty tough grind.
It started to hit me as far as feeling the physicality and the mental and physical drain of it. On day 3, day 5, I felt too. What I did, I would get up, I'd stretch and work out, have a power breakfast, meditate, and then get over there to the arena because I tried to prepare myself mentally and physically for it. If I didn't get up and work out, right, or have a power breakfast, I'd be going into it and I'd be so tired. That's
Yeah.
my own personal attitude.
Yeah.
So I have that plan for this trip. I get in on Thursday night. It starts at 12 noon. You get a 15-minute break every 2 hours. You get an hour for dinner. So basically, you play until midnight. So then I'll get back, take a cold shower, which is always good to take before you go to bed. It helps you sleep, right? Go to sleep, get up. The hotel I'm staying at's got a cold pool, sauna. I'll work out. I'll hit the cold pool. I'll get my head together, get a power breakfast, get my ass over there, get in the seat, and go to war on the Greenfield Battlefield of Champions. This, TJ, is the biggest entry fee I've ever played in my life in poker. I have to tell you because I'm going to talk about it on social
How
media.
much?
$50,000.
That's 5 times the main event.
Yeah, $50,000 entry fee. It's called the High Roller event.
Wow.
It lasts for 3 days. We each start. They expect 100 to 150 players versus the 8,500 in the main event
Right.
because it's a big entry fee, and that means the prize pool will be between 5 and let's say 7.5 million. The guy that won it last year won over $1.5 million. But again, in poker, for those of you that do or do not understand, let's say that there's 150 entries. It will pay, let's say, the top 25 positions. So if you get to 25 people left as you get eliminated, remember you get 300,000 chips. You can't buy any more chips. That's all you get. Once you lose those, you're out. So the trick is that winner takes all. He's going to sit there with probably 30 million chips by the end of the tournament. But as you get knocked out, if you go to 25th, you'll get your money back.
Right.
Then it starts getting higher and higher and higher. So if you make the top 10, let's say that the first prize is going to be 2 million, let's say. In the top 10, you're probably getting yourself $250,000 or more just for 10th place. So it's a war. It's a war to go into.
War of attrition.
It's a war of attrition. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, good luck, Buff.
Thanks. I already called Phil Hellmuth. He called me back. He's a friend of the show. He's in it. Phil Ivey will be in it. All the top players will be in it. TJ, flesh and blood. It's like a fight. It's flesh and blood. I'll go in there. They don't intimidate me. I'll play my game.
I know you're a fighter, Buff. Go do it.
Yeah. That's my competition. Thank you very much. So wish me luck on that. And if you win you don't win the big huge bracelet they give you for the World Series, which is worth like something like 250, 300,000. That alone, the jewel bracelet they give.
Yeah.
But you get you win a ring.
Right? That's right up your alley.
Yeah, like an NBA ring or whatever the case might be. So I haven't played. It's my goal. I'll probably announce the opening or have some fun with it. But really looking forward to it. It's that you talk about vacations. This is like a vacation for me. But I'm going to Vegas. There's no nightclub playing. There's no going out partying and playing.
You're there to perform.
I'm there to perform. I'm there to compete. Right?
Well, let me know.
I'm not standing sparring somebody to knock them down or get knocked out myself. This is my form of competition. I want all your money. I'm not there to make friends, although I'll make a lot of friends or know a lot of friends. I want your money.
Is there a way to follow along, Buff? Is there a leaderboard that we can check in on and see how you're doing?
You can go to worldseriesofpoker.com, which I think is either, I'll tell you real quick. Yes, go to WSOP.com, and starting on Friday, they have live updates.
Awesome.
And I will also give a daily update too. And then
let me
ESPN.
know. Let me know. I'll tweet it out and whatnot, and we'll follow along in real time.
Very cool. And ESPN is going to be filming it because, as always, I think around September, October, they have 2, 3, 4 weeks that they show all the events. So it's going to be
amazing. I'm excited, Buff. Go do it. Go bring it home.
Well, no offense, TJ, not as excited as I am.
Hey, you might be less excited. You might be more focused and maybe a little more nervous. But
Hey.
I'm all excited.
I'm focused. But you know what the cool thing is that I try to teach people about gaming and gambling. You know, you don't want to play with you can't afford to lose,
Right.
right? And we've watched on the Panic Monday Hustler Casino events I've been playing live at on
Hmm.
YouTube stream. I've already won. You know, I'm going to be totally honest with you guys.
Be
Okay.
honest, Buff.
All right.
You always get worried about like talking about money. No one cares, Buff. We want to hear.
Okay.
It's
Good.
it's
I'll tell you
better.
the
The
reality
bigger
of it.
numbers, the better it is. Let's hear.
Here's how I break it down. Being the businessman I am, you can go to a website and sell pieces of yourself, right? But I'm not doing that. I have two friends that want to be part of it. They're each putting up 10,000 each for
Oh,
10
I
people.
see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay, okay, gotcha.
I will give them. Let's say I get back the 50. I paid in. We all get back to 50. They get back their 10,000.
Right.
They will each get 10% of my winnings. If I win $1 million, they each get 100,000. So
Okay,
I'm their horse, right?
got it.
And then I have a patch I'm going to wear, and it's from Pavan, right? Our
Uh-huh.
artificial intelligence guy.
Yeah.
No big deal. He's paying me a few $1,000s to wear the patch, right?
Nice.
So now the tournament's costing me 27. I've already won more than that on Monday Night Hustler games. So my bankroll is free rolling me into the tournament, even though it's a lot
Nice.
of money. But that's the way I look at it from business.
How much will $50 get me of you, Buff?
Uh,
I'm kidding.
Probably nothing.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
A handshake and a hug and a friendly, manly kiss on the cheek. And that's about
There
it.
we go. There we go. I'll take it.
Anyway, it's all good. It's money, but the option is to go in for the big thing. If I wind up winning $1.5 million, I don't care if I give away 20%. That's fine.
There you go. Perfect.
Less taxes I have to pay anyway.
There you go.
All right. So with that being said, thank you. Wish me luck. Yada yada yada. Sylvester Stallone sold a bunch of watches of his. He had a Grandmaster Chime watch that for what did it say? $5.4 million. It's like a one of a kind watch. He sold a whole bunch of watches, and because of Sylvester Stallone, he got this huge amount of money for it, right?
Mm.
Even a watch that was worn in the movie, a Panerai, which he helped make popular, Panerai watches when they first came out,
Yeah.
sold for like 96,000. It's incredible, and I'm a lover of Rolex watches. I'm not really into all the others, although I do have some very fine watches because I'm kind of a watch freak, which got me in trouble in the elevator with Frank Trigg and Dana White, if you remember that story, right? But watches can be great investments too, but you got to spend a lot of money to get.
Yeah.
They're very expensive,
Yep.
very very expensive. Tom Brady, his final NFL game pants, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think they sold for?
50 grand.
89,000.
Okay. I was in the ballpark at least.
Yeah, it's in the ballpark. That's pretty wild.
I think that's crazy. I wouldn't pay that. But.
And this is a crazy story. I'm not happy to report this story because I'm an animal lover. But at the U.S. Women's Open, a female was playing. Her shot hit a bird and killed it.
Oh, no.
Isn't that crazy? You can say she hit a birdie or whatever, but she really hit a birdie.
Oh, God.
And then that's the article said. That was a bad
Right.
joke.
No, I understand. I mean, what are you going to do? That's not intentional, obviously. But that's sad.
That's crazy. In Florida, I've seen these things where the alligators appear on the golf course.
Oh, yeah. They live there, Buff.
That's crazy.
Yeah. They live there.
And also too, a little health thing here. The plant-based ultra-processed foods. If you see ultra-processed foods that are chips and this and that,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're made with plant-based,
Yeah.
they're not good. They're not good. It's already been proved. They link to heart disease and early death.
Yeah. The processed foods. We've
It's
talked about this all
processed
the
food.
time. Yeah.
You see the term processed food, it's
Yeah.
processed food.
Yeah.
Period.
It doesn't matter what it's made out of. If it's processed, it's processed.
Yeah, and diet drinks, they've got to come out again. 20% boost to heart condition problems from diet Coke, diet sodas. You're actually better off drinking a real Coke, even though it's got all that sugar in it.
Moderation. Everything's fine in moderation.
Now, last but not least, film and TV. I went and saw Furioso, the new Mad Max movie.
How is it?
Highly recommend it.
Really?
Very good. Non-stop action, stunts. I mean, it's a romp. 2 hours and 28 minutes of romp. But what most people don't realize, did you see the last? I'm asking TJ. Did you see the last Mad Max movie with Charlize Theron?
No.
Okay. For those of you that saw the last Mad Max movie with Charlize Theron, this is a prequel to that movie, right? In the movie, she's got one arm, she's a badass, the whole bit. This is how all that came about, Very, very well done. Very well done. Now, Will Smith's movie, the new Bad Boys, there's been a lot of Will Smith issues since the Oscars and all that.
Hmm.
Back on top again, Bad Boys came out, made over $100 million his first weekend.
That's interesting. I mean, no offense to Will Smith, and I'm not even talking about like the whole situation with Chris Rock. Like,
Yeah.
I just wasn't interested in seeing that movie. I've seen the other Bad Boys movies. Didn't necessarily dislike them. Didn't think they were great, but we're so far removed from them, Bruce. I just didn't see the allure to wanting to see it. You know what I mean? It just, I don't know. Like,
No,
it feels like Hollywood buff just can't stop remaking or putting another sequel on something. We need to come up with fresh ideas.
My dad always said, as a writer, an accomplished writer, there's basically 15 plots and 150 ways to tell each story.
Yeah,
And right now, Hollywood is starving for new concepts,
100%.
I'm not just talking CGI effect movies. I'm talking scripts with characterization and stories.
Yeah,
And you're right,
yeah.
they are remaking retro films, this film, that film. You
Well,
know,
let me ask you this: do you have a decade of movies that you feel were the best? Because for me, I feel like the 1980s had the best major motion pictures.
I I can understand where you say that, and I think each decade is known for its own. Like you, for instance, in the 30s in 1939, great films, Gone with the Wind, and so many
Right.
films came out. These classics from the past. In the 70s, The Wild Bunch, Sam Peckinpah's film. For those of you who haven't seen it, probably one of the greatest westerns ever made, that depicted violence in a way that was totally taken on in the future by film,
Yeah.
as well as in the 70s or 68. You had Bullet with Steve McQueen that created the car. Every decade's known for it. The 80s, you said? The 80s?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
80s, I feel
it's a
like,
big decade for film. A big
yeah.
decade for film.
Well, I
Most
feel like the 80s comedies, especially, were where it was at. Also, the action movies were great. I mean, obviously, some of the special effects and the CGI then isn't what it is today, but I just feel like movies were written better then.
They were, because you were dealing with more characterization,
Yeah,
plot, dialogue, non
yeah,
CGI, right? There's all the things, but film just keeps evolving. It
right.
keeps evolving and evolving, and I just look forward to it. You know me, I'm a film buff. I just enjoy fine film. I just got back from filming a film, as we both know. I talked about the other week on the show. Had a
Yeah.
great experience. Was there. I can't go into the all that happened, but Michael Bisping, myself, John Anik, Kamaru Usman, Justin Gaethje, Brandon Moreno.
That's great.
Yeah, it was great. So we'll just leave it at that. The film is being released in July of 2025, and at that time, I'm going to release some very cool pictures.
That's still a crazy turnaround, buff. Like, movies used to take 2 to 3 years to get out the shoot. Now it's a year turnaround at the most.
Modern technology, and this is a $44 million budget. This is a big movie,
That's huge.
big movie. I mean, besides, I had makeup person, hair person, this person
You have
holding
your
my.
SAG card, right?
Oh, I've had my SAG card for ever since I did co-starred on Friends in 1996.
How often do you have to stay active to maintain your SAG status?
I just got to pay my dues each year, but I'm always every year I'm happy to say that I do something, whether it's a TV commercial or a film. This is like, I don't know exactly how many I've done, but this is like my 12th film.
Wow,
Aside from
nice,
the co-starring on shows like Entourage and Friends and you know
nice.
all that kind of stuff.
I didn't even know I have an IMDb page, buff. I had no idea that I had an IMDb page, but
Well,
apparently I do.
those are put together by people, but that's cool that you do.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't put it together.
No, I think it's great you do it. Listen, TJ, all respect to you and what you've done. You're creating a very, very wonderful career for yourself. You deserve an IMDb page. You're multifaceted in your career, and it's
Oh, I
just
just got a big voice gig. I haven't told you about this. Have I told you about this?
tell me about it.
So the San Francisco Giants have Uber Eats in their stadium, in-stadium ordering, and there's a promo or an ad, I guess, that runs between innings, and I'm the voice on it.
Really? Now, how did that come about, TJ?
I auditioned for it and got it.
There you go. It's like you know what? I get offered roles. They don't ask me to audition, but I was in Million Dollar Baby, Clint Eastwood's Best Picture of the Year. I
Yeah.
auditioned for the voiceover at the climax of that when she broke her neck. As the commentator, like you.
Yep.
And Clint Eastwood picked me over all the other people that night. I was so honored by that. I think
Yeah.
that's great. You auditioned, you got it, and boom, keep going. You just keep auditioning, TJ. Now you started something, don't stop.
Oh, I've auditioned. I mean, so I pay for a website that I do. I do about 5 or 6 auditions a week.
Good.
It roughly translates to around like 100 each year. And I've gotten 3 gigs. I've done about 300 auditions. I've gotten 3 gigs. So
Is that
very low
voices.com?
percentage, but it's fun. It's something I
No,
do
I
in my
think
spare
it's
time.
great. Is that voices.com site or whatever?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so it pays off for you.
yeah. It pays the dues at least.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, one of the hardest areas to get involved in entertainment is voiceover work.
Yep.
You can establish yourself in voiceover work, and I think the goal of all of us, I'm speaking for you as well as myself, wouldn't it be great to be a cartoon character in a popular show?
Oh, absolutely.
It'd be so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have a meeting with my agents in 2 weeks to discuss this. I don't have a specific agent. We talked about this in the show before. I will not put my career in the hands of one individual. I mean, my
Right.
brother did for me, but I was passionate and I made his career work, right?
Yeah, you're too
Yeah.
hands-on of a business guy, though, Buff.
Yeah,
Like
I'm too hands
you
on. I can do it. I can do it all myself. But if
yeah.
you're an agency and those agencies listening, you want to bring a deal to me, you'll get your percentage if I agree to it. That's the way it
Right.
works. Period.
Yeah, and I think there's a benefit to that too. You're not a guy who is afraid to go to the negotiation table yourself. And
I wouldn't have it any other way.
yeah,
Nobody's going to negotiate for me the way I can negotiate for myself. So
right.
that's just me talking. I know that sounds cocky. I'm sorry, but I know my ability to do that, and that's the way it is.
Proof is in the pudding, they say.
Proof is in the pudding. On that pudding, what kind of pudding you having this weekend? Let us know, and we'll talk next week.
I think I've got a rare off week, believe it or not.
Good.
So I'm
I
gonna.
don't.
Yeah, I know you're gonna go out there and go take that money home. But yeah, it's kind of a quiet time for me until we get to International Fight Week, which I appreciate. It's been kind of nonstop. I've been traveling at least part of almost every week since March. So gonna hang out with my family. Oh, you know what? I forgot. International Fight Week actually falls on my son's birthday.
Oh,
He's turning 13.
oh,
So this weekend we're gonna go take him to Disneyland and hang out at the Disneyland Hotel, and it's a little staycation, if you will. But he's all excited because they got this monorail slide at the pool.
oh, that's great. Have a great time. How old's your son now?
13 almost.
Ah,
13.
what a great age to go away with your kid. I was just out with, we were celebrating, Brian's birthday was June 4th. Brian turned 69. And we got together, Kristen, Rupert Henry, Kristen's husband, we had our family unit. We all got together and celebrated last night. And Rupert is now 6'5", 240 pounds.
Okay, so
At
what position does he
16.
play on the football team?
Every coach looks at him, probably wants to put a pair of pads on him. Every basketball coach looks at him, probably wants to put a basketball in his hands. Rupert is not into team sports.
All
And
right,
his
so
brother
when would
Henry's
you
there, who's
expect him to make
6'4".
his Dana White Contender Series debut?
You know what? I think fighting could be interesting to him. I've got to start teaching him. I mean, I've taught him before, but I think it's time to get active in striking. And he was training jujitsu, I'd say 7 years ago, 6 years ago, with one of the Gracies. I wish to
Hmm.
God he stayed in it.
Yeah.
God knows where he'd be right now. But he's a big kid. He's such a great kid. They're both great kids. Cheers to being a great father, and happy Father's Day to you coming up, right? Happy Father's Day to all the fine fathers out there. I've been doing a lot of Father's Day cameo filming for videos celebrating Father's Day, or people write us at brucebuffer.com. And I love doing Father's Day videos. Obviously, one of the reasons is how much I love my father who's not with me anymore. So it's a special day. So before I forget, happy Father's Day to you, TJ.
Thanks, Buff.
And if that includes godfathers, I had a wonderful time hanging out with my godson and my nephew Rupert last
It
night.
does, and I know you're a passionate godfather. You've been with those boys for so long, their entire life, and it comes through when you talk about them.
It's a blessing. It's one of the greatest gifts I've ever had in my life. Thanks to Kristen, and thanks to her husband Chris for honoring me by asking me that. One of my other friends just asked me to be godfather to his child. They're having a child. They don't know if it's a boy or a girl. He told me, and he's very close. He's like a brother. I've turned down a couple godfather opportunities because it's too special, and it
Right.
involves very special, and that's why I'm always there for Henry and Rupert. In this case, I will accept because he said if it is a son, he's going to name him Bruce. Asked me to be the godfather. I said,
Great.
I'll be the godfather. Be sure you want to name him Bruce.
I like it.
It's a wonderful honor. It's a wonderful honor. All right, TJ, an honor to be with you on the show. An honor to come back next week for our guests. Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
That's it, Buff. That's it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Great having Claudia on the show. Great being here with you, TJ. Everybody, I'll take all the good luck wishes you want. Send your positive energy to me as I go to war against the greatest poker players in the world on the Greenfelt Battlefield of Champions. And I am ready to rock. So with that being said, set your goals. Write them down. So when you step on that yellow brick road path to your future, be the best you can be, perform at the best you can be, whether you're first, second, third, or champion. The bottom line is you're winning. And that's what we're all about on It's Time Radio. And be a role model of your sphere of influence out there. That's all I ask of you people. Be a good person. Be a good person to everybody around you. Set your goals. Be a role model. Talk to you next week. See you next week. Have a great weekend. It's time for me to go to war in Las Vegas. Cheers.